And welcome to another episode of the Future of Farming. Today, where of course, we talk about where farming is going. We're talking about what the next steps, what the next years, maybe even decades or even centuries, who knows, will bring for agriculture. And of course, we're really focused on the good side of agriculture, the positive benefits, the positive innovations, and things that are allowing us to move forward into a better future. Now, of course, we also talk about our crop booster, which we believe is an essential part of sustainable agriculture. It's an essential part of moving the needle forward so that our growers around the world are able to grow healthy, better quality crops, increase and improve their yields, and do so in a more sustainable and environmentally friendly way. Now, the real secret to that is efficiency, because it's one thing to say that, hey, we want to reduce your costs, we want to reduce your fertilizer usage and your water usage and your pesticide usage. And of course, these are things that I don't think anybody would seriously disagree with as goals that we want to move toward, except maybe the pesticide sales guys. I'm sure they don't want to use less. But in any case, most farmers want to use less inputs, they want to use less water. They want to use less fertilizer, right? It's just that they have a certain protocol that they follow. They have a certain workable system that they follow so that they can get a good crop out. And they know that if they follow these steps and they do these things, they're going to have a very good shot, or the best shot, they believe, at getting a good crop out every year, every year, right? However, to move things forward and to really change the game and improve things, there has to be the willingness to try new things and to change in some cases. And we never ask a farmer with 20,000 hectares to say, okay, we want you to completely change everything you're doing and do our protocol and hope for the best. Of course not, But what we do see is that farmers of all sizes and all shapes and all types will typically allocate a field or a section of field where they put our crop booster. They follow our protocols, and they see that they can really reduce their fertilizer and irrigation schedule quite a bit. In fact, next week I'm going to be talking with exactly how you can implement our crop booster and our protocols in order to save 30, 40, 50% of your water and save 30, 40, 50% of your fertilizer and pesticide usage, and do so in a way that's not going to put your crops at risk. So definitely stay tuned next week, next Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and have your questions ready because we're going to be talking about that in detail. And it turns out that it's not that complicated. It really isn't that difficult. It's not like you just have to completely use no fertilizer. It's just a matter of looking at how you're applying the fertilizer and applying it in a different way that allows you to get the plants what they need without having to use too much fertilizer or water or the things and still get a good crop. But for this particular episode, for today's episode, I want to revisit our recent interview that we did with one of our earliest growers, Jim Reed. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, Jim Reed was one of our earlier farmers. He started with us 3 years ago, actually 4 years ago, no, 3 years ago, now with on dragon fruit. And he gave us an interview a couple of years ago after his first full season, and he explained the kinds of results he was seeing. So we followed up with him recently, and we asked him, okay, what are your successful actions? What kinds of things are you doing, and what kinds of things are you seeing in current time? So I'm going to share this with you, and if you guys have questions, please let us know. We want to make sure we answer any questions, but I'm going to show you what Jim Reed said about our crop booster and how he's been using this over the past year and what he's seeing. So stay tuned, grab your popcorn, and let's get started here with Jim Reed. All right, guys, sorry about that. I'm getting notifications here that for some reason the audio is not working, so I apologize. Let me see if I can grab this and share with you. Hold on. Sometimes these sharing apps don't do as great of a job. So there we go. Okay, sorry about that, guys, but I will share this with you once more. And this is again Jim Reed, one of our earlier farmers, and do let me know in the comments if you don't interviewing one of our best customers, Jim Reed, with KR Citrus, who has been gracious enough to give us a follow-up interview here in 2023. And Jim, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it, as always.
You're welcome.
So I just kind of wanted to dive in. Obviously, for those of you guys who don't know or haven't seen our presentation, Jim started with us, I believe, with a smaller grove of citrus seedlings, correct? Was that the first installation?
Dragon fruit.
Dragon fruit was
dragon fruit first.
Okay, yeah. So he had a dragon fruit nursery, and he began testing us with this, and I was getting some pretty amazing results with that, and then installed it on a field of citrus seedlings, and then eventually on his full grove of citrus, his organic citrus, which is what we're talking about today. And so, Jim, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about your background for those of you guys who haven't seen any previous videos. I know you've been obviously doing this a long time and a pretty big expert, but if you could just tell us a little bit about your background in farming.
Well, I came from a farming family. I started in citrus. My dad planted a 20-acre grove in 1958. My job was to sucker the trees, and he had 3 rows of cotton in the middle and to hoe the all the weeds out. I used to eye hoe. I don't know if there's still people around that know what an eye hoe is, but at that time, I was 13 years old and I was so skinny I had to jump around the shower just to get wet. Eye hoe weighed about as much as I did, but I got paid $1 a row, and that was pretty good. Excuse me. And so from there, I went on to Cal Poly, got a couple of degrees, ag engineering and crop production, which is agronomy. They had little common names over there. From there, I went into row crop, worked for a gentleman, hired me at 21 to run a 1,760-acre row crop ranch at his furthest away location. And I thought, I'm not sure this guy's very smart, hiring this 21-year-old kid. So I hired the oldest non-senile people I could find to help me because I knew I did not know what I was doing. In 1969, I went full-time into the citrus business. I started as a field man at a little co-op, a little sun-kissed co-op that was struggling with volume. I stayed there, was able to actually quadruple their volume and go to 2 packing houses in not too many years. Eventually, I went on to own my own packing houses, and we, with my family, we were had farming companies, developing groves, mostly citrus, but we did grapes and almonds and walnuts and other things as well. But primarily citrus. So I've been doing that my entire life. I've done everything there is to do in citrus, including owning and participating in the processing plants, except for still retail on the street. That's the only thing I have not done. Exported into many countries we've exported to. Worked in Mexico for 25 years. Handled all the marketing and packing for juice and fresh pack in the state of Sonora for 25 years. And now I'm kind of kicked back. I only have a 100-acre block of organic that I've had that since 1983. And then the dragon fruit thing fell in my lap about 3 years ago. So that's my background, and I'm still ticking. I feel good, and I'm going to keep going as long as the good Lord gives me the strength and the will to continue on. He's been real great to me so far.
That's great. I know you look amazing. I mean, last time I saw you, I know you were recovering from some health, an injury and stuff. So it's good to see that you're around and kicking, and you look very well.
Yeah, I had an operation on my foot. If you would equate what they did to my foot to an engine, in your tractor. It was a frame off, complete rebuild, the whole 9 yards, and it was successful. It works fine, and there's nothing there's nothing I cannot do now of any physical impediment whatsoever. Again, I just thank the good Lord for that.
Well, that's great. I'm glad to see you're up and running. I know, again, you've been great with us, and we definitely want to see nothing but health and vigor going forward.
Thank you.
Um, One thing I wanted to kind of touch on, I know I wanted to kind of touch on your experiences with our crop booster, but before I really get into that, I wanted to discuss a little bit about something that you were talking about this last year, and that has to do with water savings. And this was kind of before, I think this year California finally got some rain, but before that, it's been like 6 or 7 years of drought. And you were kind of mentioning that you were transitioning your grow from the standard like once a week type of a situation where you're irrigating for 24 or 36 hours, something like that, to more of, I think you called it a pulse irrigation, where you're watering multiple times per day, but for very small amounts. Could you explain what motivated you? First of all, I guess explain the type of irrigation that you moved over to, and what motivated you to make that change.
The type of irrigation never changed. It's they're Bo Smith micro sprinklers. They put out about 15 gallons an hour at 22 pounds of pressure. A very common system. And how this happened is I have a small test block of citrus where I live. I live just a few miles south of west of the southern entrance of Sequoia National Forest, right in the center of the state. And the weather's similar to the valley, a little bit different, not much. But when I put these 38 trees in my part of my landscape project where I live, I use different kinds of trees, and I'm just doing some testing and stuff. But I planted them exactly like I would a commercial planting, same spacing, same hose, same irrigation system, everything exactly the same. Pressure regulator, so there's no more pressure. It's exactly the same as what I have in my commercial groves that I've had over the last several years. And we've planted, quite a few thousand acres over the years, and we pretty much use the same system because it works. But what was different is you're typically irrigating 12 or 24 hours, 12 when the season starts, 24 when it gets hot, every 4, 5, 6, 7 days, depending on the weather. Well, in my 38 trees that I had in Three Rivers, where I live, I put it on the timer with all of the other plants and landscaping that I had. So it was irrigating every day. It dawned on me a couple of years ago, and the trees here look just like the trees in my commercial growth. Nice trees, big fruit, plenty of crop. I can see no difference in the quality or quantity of what I grow here in Three Rivers or what I grow in the San Joaquin Valley. But I calculated one day, and I was setting my timer as the season changed. It dawned on me. I'm putting on half the water on these trees by irrigating them every day that I'm putting on in the valley that we're irrigating once a week or once every 3 days at 24 hours. I thought, this has got to not be a coincidence. I've been doing this for 15 years now. So I moved here 15 years ago. So I started applying that, and I couldn't quite do the same thing because of the valving. In the commercial setting, you have 20 acres or 25 or 30, whatever you have per valve, and they're not hooked up to a timer. All the stuff at my home was hooked up to a timer. So we started experimenting with changing them. We couldn't do it every day, but we could do every other day, every third day, things of that nature. And we started saving 25% of the water, and then a third of the water, and we had no loss of crop, no loss of size. In my opinion, we were irrigating and putting water below the tree roots, below where the nutrients are. We were washing nutrients down, in my opinion. And I checked with another large company here, Fowler Packing, in the Central California here, and they're way ahead of me. They knew what they were doing. I did it by accident. They were doing it on purpose. and they were saving the water too by doing it. And that's where the name Pulse came from. I didn't even know what the name of it was, but that has made a big difference. And I still don't think that we have put in enough time to understand exactly how much we can save. I think we can save more water. They now have instruments that are designed to measure the water intake that the tree needs. And I think we'll see a program with that where that's automatically interfaced with the water system itself. So it could be all automatic and you can run it from your smartphone. You just take the weather, what it's going to be, put it in, boom, boom. I think in 2 years we'll have that. And the Kimanasi system seems to really have made a big difference to me in aiding and abetting that system. Okay, when I first planted the young grove which you mentioned earlier in Terabella there, where I first put it on a commercial basis, and saw that my trees grew bigger and faster than my neighbors did by, I mean, it wasn't even Ray, as I say, my saying is even Ray Charles could see the difference. But in the size of the trees, the next year I sent you some pictures of that. And I had been doing that when I set that system up. Unknowingly, I set it up where I could do pulse irrigating. And because I was starting with young trees, I knew I didn't need to irrigate baby trees for 24 hours. So I set that system up again unknowingly, and we were able to do that as well.
And you think, okay, and you would attribute obviously the majority of that water savings to the difference in scheduling, but you say the Kiminasi has also had a benefit and help the trees as far as the water savings and that kind of thing as well.
No question. Oh, no question about that. Yeah, it's all part and parcel to I'm using less water there now than I am where I don't. The only place I don't have the Kemanasi system is in my home, and I don't even know why I don't have one. I think I should probably put one on here just for fun, but it's only a handful of trees. That's why.
Right. Well, great. And then also the other thing that we're hearing a lot about, is sustainability, and it's kind of I call it an umbrella term, meaning it kind of covers a lot of different areas, but it's definitely been a hot topic recently. You have a lot of governments and a lot of corporations that are all pushing the idea of sustainable growing practices. And I guess my first question how would you describe sustainability, or how would you define that term in relation to what you're doing?
I lost you. Did you lose me?
No, I'm here. Sorry. I'll repeat the question. Sorry.
No, I heard you. I just don't see I don't see you anymore. I don't know what I did wrong there.
Okay.
But it's okay. As long as you can see me, we're doing fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead and repeat the question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. My question essentially is, sustainability has been kind of a buzzword and a hot topic lately with governments and corporations and everybody really pushing it. And I guess my first question would be, how would you define like sustainability or sustainable growing practices in terms of your operations?
Well, I took a tour Friday. Where my growth situated, we have planted south of where I've had this growth since '83. Since '83 to '90, we planted 1,600 and more acres. So everything's pretty much the same. Big irrigation system. Most of it we did ourselves. We had a couple of neighbors come in and plant a few blocks. This is south of Bakersfield, and I wanted to check. I'm the only organic, and I have the oldest trees that were there that we planted there first. And I wanted to check size and quantity of the tree. We're very concerned on the navel oranges this year that we had a very, very light crop. And then 4 weeks ago, we were so far behind on sizing. We were concerned about this. So I just wanted to see where we were. And when the weather cooled off, I was very pleased. Our sizing has improved. It's at normal, maybe even ahead of normal a little bit, according to the industry. We're a tickle ahead. And I walked my grove along with the foreman that my brother does a bunch of farming there. He just happened to be there, does all our spraying. And he's a seasoned guy. He's in his 60s. And we were walking, and his name is Steve, and he said, "Jim, I don't know what you did to these trees." He said, "But 3 years ago, these trees were they don't even look like the same trees anymore." He said, "What did you do? What do you think? What do you think the difference is?" And I looked at him and I said, "Steve, what do you think the difference is?" And he said, "Well, I think it's that thing that you wrapped around the pipe, that goes around the pipe, and that along with your fertilizing program." He said, "Because now this was the oldest grove, and it looked like the oldest grove in this about 2,000 acres there altogether. And he said it looks as good or better than the trees 10 years younger, and you have better size." We were looking at the size of the fruit. I was surprised. That was just an outsider, and he just said that silver thing you wrapped around the pipe. He had no idea. And so I took that, and then I took about an hour and a half, and I just drove and started looking at another 1,000 acres blocks, or the blocks. Some my brother farm, some my neighbor's farm, and I couldn't find any conventional navel orange block that was any bigger, had any more fruit. Most of it was not as big and had about the same amount of fruit, but the size wasn't as big, and I was extremely pleased about that. And that difference, they have conventional has more tools for nutrition than I do, but I have the Kimanasi system, and in my mind, that's the difference.
Nice. Um, you mentioned you sent us a couple of testimonial videos, which we'll probably show once again. But you mentioned in your earlier testimonial videos, I think in January, that you said this last year was the best year you've seen in over 50 years of growing. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, like the things you were seeing, things you noticed?
I had the best navel crop I've had there in a long, long time. Um, and being organic, it was every bit as good as the normal conventional, better than a lot of them. I had the second largest Valencia crop that I've had, and it was only second by a little bit, not a lot. Uh, and the consistency since we installed the Kembanasi system seems to stabilize. Our Valencias used to be a little bit what we call alternate bearing. They put out 2,000 beds one year, 1,200 the next year, 2,000. Now they seem to have settled in, and there's not the big swings like there was. My navel orange has never done that. They're pretty consistent. But the Valencias, excuse me, have that's been their MO for not just me, but for a lot of people. It seems to have stabilized that. And I say, as I drove south and other trees that we planted, same varieties back in the late 80s and early 90s, they still seem to be, to me, a bit uh, their crop is like that. One year heavy, one year light. So,
Mhm.
so I
So
think
you think
it's stabilized that.
so you've seen it stabilize where you're not having those heavy years and light years. It's more
Correct. Yeah,
consistent.
that's right. Yeah,
Okay.
it's smoothed out the alternate bearing, in my opinion.
Okay. Cool. And the other thing you would mention in the testimonial was that when your organic grove looked healthier and almost similar to conventional groves. And I guess my question would be, um, how would an organic grove normally look compared to a conventional grove? And then how did the Kimanasi grove maybe improve what you would normally see versus organic versus conventional?
Typically, you drive by a organic citrus grove, and they're not the leaves aren't as big, and they're not as green, and the tree just doesn't look as healthy. It doesn't look like it's making a nice flush all the time of new growth. And you drive by mine, you would never know the difference. I mean, it looks just as healthy as the neighbors that are not organic, that are conventional. Every bit as healthy. A lot healthier than some I might add.
Nice. And then I guess my last question would be, given your experience over the last, I think, 3 years now since we were working together, what advice would you give to a grower who's looking at the crop booster to improve their farm? Like, what kinds of advice would you recommend to them as far as they're looking at using our technology?
Well, my advice would be to open up our minds, because the biggest thing people say is snake oil. And okay, you think it's snake oil. I don't think it's snake oil. I had an open mind when I tried it to see if it would work. So what I did is I took uh, two. I started with the nursery, and I had two greenhouses. One at four greenhouses. I put two with the Kibanasi system and then two off the Kibanasi system. And I saw the difference right away. Again, Rachel's going to see the difference because I'm rooting dragon fruit plants that and putting them in, getting cuttings, putting them in 1, 2, 5 gallon pots, rooting them, and we supply those to the box stores. And so the winter time, I need to get a lot of plants ready for the spring. We don't sell a lot in the winter, a few around the coastal areas, of course. But the big push is in late February all the way through early May. So in the wintertime, I'm trying to grow them to size, and that's what I tried it, and it was just night and day. And my nursery manager came to me, and he has two plants like it. One has roots like this, one had three little sprigs. And I said, "What do you got there?" He said, "This is room 3, and this is room 1." Well, room 3 had the Kibanasi system, room 1 didn't. And I said, So he and I went and dug a bunch of plants up, and I said, okay. Then I talked to you, and you sent me some more. You sent me another system for a 2 or 3 inch line, whatever it was, 2 inch line. And so I energized the whole entire nursery that way. And that's, yeah. We moved that nursery over towards the coast of Moore Park in May, and I had you or Frank sent me another one, and I had a hard time convincing the guy that runs that nursery. So finally, he watered that by hand. I had an old very automatic system. He waters it by hand. So we put it on into the hose, and what do you know? It was taking 3 or 4 weeks to root. Guess what it takes now? Week and a half to 2.5 weeks. Same thing.
Yeah. So I think that's good advice. Like
just try it.
we work with farmers with 300, or I should say 20 or 30,000 hectares, and they're doing this on like a 20 or 30 hectare small block, right?
Exactly.
And we understand there's a lot of what we call snake oil out there, and but just because we're a new technology doesn't mean that we're like everything else, but we're willing to prove ourselves for sure.
Yeah, just try my I guess I was kind of born into trying things new, because I think you're going to find it. I remember one my dad grew a lot of potatoes as well as citrus, and I remember when I was a teenager, I was out moving sprinkler pipe, and I'm working, and his foreman came up, and he had what looked like a little stick of dynamite, and my dad's name was Bill. He said, "Bill, here's another one of them dead gum magnets you thought might do some good. We dug up." So I guess I come by that naturally. We tried some. My dad was pretty embarrassed. He had bought all these magnets. It was supposed to do something, and like you said, there's a lot of things that are hocus pocus out there. And but in this case, I certainly wasn't taken advantage of by trying something new. I'm very happy. As I say now, I'm afraid to farm without it. That's the only problem, because it works so good.
Well, I'm glad it's worked so well for you, and of course, I look forward to many healthy years for you, and so we can continue working together for many years. And obviously, we want to help every farmer we can. So if we can make all organic grows as healthy as yours, and we can convince the guys, hey, maybe you don't need to spend all this money on chemicals.
And water
too, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is a temporary relief we have. We still have a water problem in California. You just don't happen to have one now.
Yeah.
The one we had this year was getting rid of too much water, because we have not invested in the infrastructure that was been prepaid for and voted in by the voters for the last 15, 16 years. And for whatever reason, our government hasn't elected to spend the money that they need to spend, that they have already. And I'll stop because I'm going to get on my soapbox here pretty quick.
Yeah, we'll keep it as apolitical. I understand and probably agree with 99% of what you're about to say, but we'll keep it non-political for the
Agreed.
purposes. That way, any farmer on any side of the political aisle can take advantage of this because we want to help everybody for
Of
sure.
course, of course, of course, of course.
Well, great. Thanks so much, Jim, for your time. I really appreciate it. Again, I look forward to working with you for many years to come, and I'm glad that we're able to help you out thus far, and I hope that we can do even better for you going forward.
Yeah, we need to send Manny over to that dragon fruit farm because the guy never did hook it up. He's covered up with flowers and fruit and all that kind of stuff. So let's just go hook it up for him, okay?
Yeah, we'll get my guy out there. I talked to him on Friday also, and after I talked to you, so we'll get him out there for you for sure.
All right. Thanks, Jim.
All right, thanks, Jim. Appreciate
Have a
it.
great week.
Thanks, you too. And there you have it, guys. That's Jim Reed, one of our best farmers, one of our earliest farmers, and like he said, he would never farm without it. He would be afraid to farm without it now. It's sometimes difficult to see that going forward, but he's been a great farmer for us, and that's the entire reason why we're here. We want to help you have those same results, and we want to help you become more sustainable, spend less money on inputs and water and everything else, and get more yield and better quality out as well. So if that's something that you want, if you want to be more sustainable, if you want to be more profitable, if you want to be part of the future of farming, then of course give us a call, 727-324-6750. Or as I say, you can always email us at service@harvestharmonics.com. We'll be happy to work out a quote for you so that you can become part of the future of farming today. Talk soon, guys, and we'll see you again next